Today, we're joined by Melissa Sequeira, who's currently the GM of Digital at NBN Australia. She's got extensive experience in digital strategy and comms. She's worked at brands like Chartered Accountants Australia, Telstra, Merivale. She specializes in creating digital solutions that link brands with their audiences successfully. And in our chat today, Mel is going to share how, at a GM level especially, data is your secret weapon for influence, the kind of questions you can use to empower people and your team to solve problems, how showcasing the value of your team is critical for success at that general manager level, but she also shares really openly about the types of tricks and practical strategies she's got in place with her family, such as using Trello to streamline family and work commitments and negotiating shared responsibilities at home, how doing that can actually make room for leadership success at work. It's a fantastic conversation. Can't wait for you to meet Mel. Welcome, Mel. Welcome to Even. Thank you for your time today. We're delighted to understand more about you and your career story.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And I am really excited to talk to you. I guess, as you say, there are so many women's stories out there, and I'm really excited to share mine.
Amazing. Thanks, Mel. So what is your career story? What brought you to the point where you are now general manager of digital at NBN?
I wish I could say it was planned and a linear journey, and I had grand ambitions that this was the thing I was working towards, but that was not at all the case, and probably true for many women or just many people. I was definitely building websites for fun when I was in high school. I thought that was a good way to spend my spare time, but I actually was completing a film degree, and I really thought that I was going to make movies. And that sounds really exciting and sexy and, cool, but the industry when I graduated was not really that forthcoming. It was really hard to find what I wanted to do. So my first role was working at Telstra, helping them make videos for their retail environments. And it was a really eye-opening experience because it was corporate, not what I thought I would be doing, especially after years of staying up late and running between sets to, support, some sort of film I was volunteering on. And the hours were very different, but it's probably where the trajectory started. And even just making those videos, I think I started to understand the broader concept of business outcomes and business value. And it really got me to that commercial thinking. But I didn't realize I was absorbing all of that at the time. And then someone in the team left, and there was a role open for a B2B portal, like a website portal that we used to help frontline staff sell Telstra Big Fund. And I just put my hand up because I could do that. And I was like, I could just do that on the side. I did that for fun at home, and it's easy. And that's probably my big takeaway. Was actually most of my career decisions have been, I think I could do that. Let me have a crack at it. Let me just put my hand up. I saw an opportunity. And it's that recipe of being prepared, having worked on that aspect of myself, really knowing where or how I would apply it, and then seeing the opportunity come up and just being ready and being willing to say yes. So I was doing 2 jobs for a really long time, but it was the start, because after that point, every job I did after that was digital. I've been in websites ever since.
Amazing. And so this decision that you made, I could do that. I mean, how does that kind of mindset, that approach, how does that come into kind of other decisions you might have made throughout your career?
I think I definitely still fall into that group of people that go, I could do 80% of that, so I'm ready, as opposed to necessarily feeling confident that I know I definitely have 30 or 40% of that and I could learn the rest. So I definitely think that that's probably still something I need to work on myself. But a big part of it was I felt taking safe risks. And as my career's progressed, I've taken probably bigger risks. In those early days, though, it was definitely a sense of, I felt very close to 100% confident that I'd be good at that and I could do that, and stepped in with a lot of confidence into it. But I definitely had times where I went in with 100% confidence and it didn't work out. And that was probably a big learning experience for me, because I'd come from this idea of you don't quit, you just work harder until you get it right. Yeah, that's as a perpetual prolific people pleaser. I was like, I'm not doing what I need to be doing in this role. And I was living overseas, and it was this, once in a lifetime opportunity to live abroad, work abroad. And I was not having a good time, and it was not a good fit for me, but I didn't realize. And I just kept kind of pushing and being really miserable. And that was a really big realization for me to have. I had wonderful in-laws who gave me a little pep talk and just said, this life's too short to do something that you're miserable at. And this is this opportunity that you should be enjoying and living to your fullest. And you're young and you've got us to support you. Like, why would you keep doing this if you're not happy? And I got back to the role and quit on the Monday. And that was when I realized the power of quitting, of knowing yourself, quitting, and that was in and of itself an investment in myself and my future happiness and the thing that I was going to be good at, like making space for that. And it was scary because I'd never quit my job and not had something to go to. And that time that I took off in between, I went and got my, certificate of digital marketing, which I had no professional training in. So I just had a piece of paper that I could say I actually have done some training in digital. And then I landed in a job I loved. And then now I think back of my time living overseas, if I hadn't done that, I don't think I would have thought of that time as the best time of my life. But it was truly the best time of my life because I was overseas doing something I really loved. I met beautiful people. And I learned a lot about myself through the process.
That was an incredible choice and decision to make. You chose to back yourself and you chose, yep, I haven't got anything right now, but this isn't right for me. And also that support that you had around you, that's incredible to be able to help you to make that choice. We have this concept at Even about choice moments. And sometimes we do know that they are big choices and that they can impact our careers in positive or negative ways. And then other times we could be making a choice that we actually there is so much uncertainty about it. And we actually don't know how it's going to impact us. And so we find that women have a lot more of those choice moments, and that choices can sometimes feel a lot more riskier for us as well.
Yeah, I get it. As you get older and you have kids and a mortgage and you don't necessarily have that freedom to make those choices so flippantly, you really have to maybe think about what you're going to do as a consequence of it. But when you're young, I mean, that's a lesson I learned at a good time. I think when you don't have those accountabilities or responsibilities sitting on your shoulders, that's the time to take the risks.
So you're a general manager now. You're a general manager now of MBM. So you have transitioned into a very significant leadership role. And so I'd just like to understand how you see that transition into leadership. How do you make sense of it? How do you describe it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it all starts with your experience of your leader from your early roles. So you start to see what you like and don't like about how you are managed and how others show up. And for me, it was very much probably not necessarily thinking I need to be GM or CEO one day or any of that kind of thing, but more like I always look that little bit ahead and go, if I was in that position, I would do this. I would not do that. And I'd had enough of those experiences that when an opportunity to lead a team came up, that I felt ready that I'd know how I would show up. And a big part of my control is just my need for control is to at least have a plan or an idea of what I would do. And that gives me some comfort. So I think that probably helped that I always was thinking that little bit ahead. And then when I got there, it was about building a small team in the context of the problems the business had to solve there. But absolutely, like as the program evolved, the volume of work evolved, that I've been really growing my leadership here at MBN over multiple phases. And it's been so great to see the business invest in women and invest in progressing internal talent. So, started off with a small team, but have grown the team and grown my leadership skill set as a result of that recently, where I really started to pivot my thinking about leadership, less from being like managing people and getting the work out the door, but more like growing people and coaching them and thinking about how their success, personal and professional, is the whole team's success and the whole company's success. And also really thinking about what that means just for the good that it can mean for the world generally, like that you have set people up with great skills and you've supported them and made them feel good. Something I remember someone saying to me a while ago is that it doesn't matter what you say. People don't remember exactly what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. And so I always have that in the back of my mind when I'm having even tough conversations. So I really think of leadership as like trying to get the best out of myself, my team, for the shared outcomes of the company, and really, really understanding how who they are personally impacts who they are at work and how they can be, I guess, successful.
Can we go a little more granular as well? How it changes from, say, being, the lead of a project. So you're still leading a group of people to kind of then leading a team. And what changes in the approach? Like, so for example, how do your one-to-ones change, or how do you approach a coaching conversation? Like what are some of those things that you've done that have changed for you?
Definitely going from doing the work to managing someone doing the work. If it's the work you used to do and you are now managing the person doing that work, it's very easy to just kind of tell them how it should be done and hold them to the standard that you held. So I was really working hard to try to not do that, but I'm sure I did. As I started to grow my skill set in this space, I realized, and very recently have pivoted my style to questioning, asking the right questions to help someone else work out how to solve the problem for themselves. And that really has a long-term impact on the ability to delegate later on anyways, and for them to grow and step into the next role for them as well. So that's been probably most successful I've found. And just some of the exercises of like, what are the options on the table? What do you think that other person wants to get out of this? How would you solve this if you needed to achieve that particular outcome? Are there any other ways that you could explore that? All those sorts of questions, those big questions that really, they already know the answer half the time. More than half the time. And you're just sort of helping them clarify their thinking. And you hire great people. I mean, you might as well let them be great. So
you go to so much effort to kind of get the right team and craft that team.
Yeah.
And everyone does really want that autonomy to be able to do their job. Everyone does actually come to work wanting to do a good
100%.
And it really just helps expand what they can be and how they can contribute. I love that, the questioning approach. What data skills do you believe are really essential for leaders in digital roles these days? And how do you see, some of the best ways to develop this? I think women can tell themselves they're non-technical. We think that can really constrain your career because it doesn't have to be so constrained. Technical can mean so many different things, and there is a lot of interest in kind of data skills. So it'd be great to understand how you understand data skills and what you think is important for leaders these days.
I definitely saw myself as a humanities person and not a maths person, and so I probably didn't realize how critical that would be to my role one day. And I love talking to my daughter about the fact that she's like, I'm doing this thing. I'm like, you have no idea how much you're going to use that later. You really do definitely do that bit. That's important. Like, just basically being able to read the finance, numbers every week and understand what the business is doing. I definitely think we talk to women about the soft skills, speak up more, and you need to be a great manager and people need to like you. And then we don't talk to them enough about how they're solving business problems. And you can't solve a business problem until you understand the numbers. So I think being able to connect what you do to business outcomes, being able to demonstrate a business case and being able to measure success is probably critical. And then there's all types of data. There's that, I think financial is critical to success and something I probably even still want to learn a lot more about. And it helps that I'm married to an accountant. I have someone to check with regularly. Does this make sense? That's really helpful. But I definitely think understanding how systems and data feed, like it underpins everything in how organizations operate. So how you describe data and how it feeds into other things and how we standardize it and make sure that all systems and processes talk to each other in a way that allow you to, in our case, show up to our customers with a united front, with a consistent message and with the right information. So, I think it's twofold. It's understanding at a high level how your thing delivers value, but at the same time, understanding how systems and processes work. And that does not need to be technical. I actually think the technology is a quarter of the battle. The rest of it is people and processes. So, I mean, that's often the gap.
I guess what I'm really interested in is how do you craft your team and ensure that you've got a complementary capability set there?
So definitely training. So we, for example, put everyone on a Google Analytics course, but that's only good if they use the skill. So on the job development planning, like really working out how you shadow someone, like sitting with an analyst and spending time with them, or creating tasks or building part into your remit into a project that it's your accountability to pull together the outcomes or the reporting at the end, really making sure that it's not just a tick box, we did a course, because like 90% of the time I feel like the course is really not that useful. Those foundational skills are forgotten as soon as you walk out of there because you don't use them. So for me, it's definitely, look, when you're recruiting, you're looking for the right skill set for sure. But when you're trying to grow the skill set in the team, you've got to do the combination of formal training and give them the work. They have to do the work for it to really stick, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And having those what can be called heat assignments, stretch assignments really helps kind of embed those capabilities. And it kind of sounds like early on in your career, you were also kind of seeking those assignments Just you could see you were sprinkling them throughout your career and you were using those as kind of your stepping stones.
Yeah, I think it's a logic thing as well. You can often see that it doesn't make sense to do something that isn't going to have an impact. Definitely, I mean, just we don't want wasted effort. Why do work that isn't going to have an impact? So let's measure how it performs today and then make sure the thing we're doing is actually driving that uplift. And I think it's really hard to be, people aren't great at failure at the moment. I don't know if failure is the right word, but just test and learn, to be okay with the fact that we thought this was going to work and then to say, actually, we were wrong and we've learned something and we're pivoting to this other approach now. I think we always want to say that the thing we did was successful, but particularly in digital where we're working with new technologies, new space, we're not going to get it right, particularly if you're a early adopter or a fast follower to what's happening in market. The only way you'll be successful is if you try something. And that means being able to measure it and then actually use that to decide what to do next. I think it's about understanding the two types of doors, the one-way and the two-way doors. Have you heard that concept before? Yes. I love this. I've been talking to my team about it.
Explain it. That would be great from your perspective.
One-way doors are decisions that you feel like you probably can't walk back from, and you really need to do the thinking beforehand. You need to write the business case, do the research, probably user testing, take all of the information you have available to you, and then you proceed because you are 80% sure it's going to be effective. Hopefully I'm measuring, yay, it was a success. The two-way doors are, you can come back from that. You can definitely just fix it later if it doesn't work out. And you should try something. Better to try something than to sit on it for too long. Even 50% is better than nothing. So in those cases, get in there, have a go, and go back through the door if it's not right. Just change it, like an A/B test type thing that you're doing it consecutively.
If I ask you, looking back on some of the data-driven kind of strategic decisions that you've made, what would be some of the key lessons or insights that you kind of take from those? Like what worked? What didn't work?
Probably just regular measurement and managing expectations. Particularly in a corporate environment, you really do need to let people know we're not 100% sure about this. That's probably the big learning. With the one-way doors, you've got to be really confident and you have to have done all of your groundwork. But I think managing expectations with all your stakeholders, your leaders, to say we're going to try something here. And that is actually one of the success metrics. So defining that from the start to say success is understanding how customers are going to behave from this and probably having a second stage of iteration. So that's probably where, those big decisions can be really caveated with the people that you're working with. And then probably that's probably the other big learning is this might seem apparent and obvious to someone in digital, but that's not how the rest of the business operates often. And I've seen that in every company because digital understands that sort of agile sprint based, we just keep changing and optimizing because it's not like print. You've put it out there and it's out there forever. You can keep optimizing it. And I think just really doing a lot to explain to the stakeholders around, to the leaders about the benefit and value of this way of working. And then taking them on the journey and ensuring that they are seeing the data and how that's informing your decisions and how the backlog or the program is evolving to adjust to what we know about customers and customer behaviors. I think that's probably the biggest learning is really taking everyone else on the journey. I think we often assume, sometimes we speak in digital shorthand, data-led decision-making is great when you understand the data, and you really have to make sure that your audience, your stakeholders understand it as well.
As you're describing the general manager role, it sounds like you're in this space where you're leading this department, but then you're influencing these senior stakeholders. So you're very much the connector to the senior stakeholder group and ensuring that your team also gets that work done. Is that how you would describe kind of the manager role?
I think that's it. Probably true for just leadership in general, sort of removing the barriers and the blockers for your team to execute. And that might mean doing the PR for them so that people understand the value of what they're doing, so that people understand the things that need to change around them in order for them to be successful. So that might be, working on operating models or partnerships, leading the way with the business casing and setting the vision and strategy so that people can really get behind it and then enable them. In a big matrix organization, that's probably quite critical, playing that role, managing up and out and building the partnerships across the business so that they can be successful. And then so, if you've got teams which have competing priorities or sometimes incentives that are clashing, I'm trying to cut costs over here, but I'm trying to grow a revenue thing over here. And then the team are like, why is this team not coming on the journey with me? It's really up to me to have that conversation and not for them to go around in circles every week. Certainly I've felt over the last years, I've learnt and really tried to uplift where I spend my time instead of so much in the weeds, trying to understand what they're doing, that I actually do focus my time in around removing the barriers around them and really helping them be successful.
I love it. I love how you describe it as doing the PR for. I think that's such an accessible way of describing it. Just, you're the one ensuring that everyone understands what they're doing and why they're brilliant at what they do.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a different kind of angle to take, but we'd love to understand, with as much as you're comfortable sharing, what are you juggling right now in your life?
I felt like I was really shocked to learn that after having a kid that the equality sort of starts to disappear in the world. That was really where I felt it. I think that I always had this idea in my mind that my partner and I would always be equal and it would be easy because we thought that that was important. But it was really after we had a kid that I saw that the world didn't see it that way, and that had an impact on us. And so for me, the juggle is the expectation to me for me to be a mum and what all of those sort of stereotypes are. At the same time as we might agree that that's fine for my husband to do that work, it's perceived to be weird for others. And that's really hard. And the injustice of that really gets me. That was probably such a culture shock for me. I was really shocked by that. But what I will say, I hate to suggest that I'm lucky, but I do really feel that I have a partner who really partners with me and really does want to meet me halfway on everything. And we have, prior to having kids, pushed each other. So that has really helped. We both have the same curiosity for travel and learning and music and want to impart all of that onto our daughter. And we want to demonstrate to her what an equal partnership looks like. So we work really hard to, like, he does all the cooking, and that confuses my family to no end. And I do, a lot of the school stuff and I'm the technology internet person in the house. That's unusual, right? When the internet's broken, who do you call? It's me. So,
that's very cool.
That's awesome. But I think just me stepping into this role was another change and another negotiation for us. So I think probably the two big pivotal turning points for us in the juggle negotiation was coming back from mat leave, because when you're on parental leave, you spend a lot of time doing everything because you're not working. So why wouldn't you? And then you have to renegotiate. And part of that was, making the list, putting it into a Trello, divvying it up, making sure
Yes, that would be the use Trello for it. It's exactly what. It's such a good approach.
It's amazing. We use Trello and a Google Calendar, and we groom the backlog on Sunday nights, and we optimize. And we have the color-coded calendar, the kid events, my events, his events, and it's really working for us at the moment. It's not always easy. Sometimes we have to make hard compromises. Since I stepped into the role, I knew I'd be doing more, and that would mean he needed to do more.
And I love how you were talking about it's a negotiation.
It is.
And it's just, you do kind of see it both of you seem to see it as a constant, you're not, it's not lump and done.
Change.
Everything's changing. And it's always up for negotiation.
Yeah, you absolutely can't set it and forget it, because that way lies resentment. But also, I think the other thing we learned was ask for help. We asked for a lot of help from grandparents, from a babysitter. At one point, we got a cleaner, and that was probably really important for us. And I feel like we now find this balance way more fulfilling once we realized it takes a village. And that's probably how my parents did it. But, my partner and I got together when we were much younger. I don't think I was thinking about this proactively at the time. I took it for granted. So it has been an interesting and ongoing negotiation, and it really helps that we both want to see each other successful. That is a big part of what works.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's a key part of how women can succeed in understanding how we juggle this through. And my belief is that if we don't have something that comes close to equity at home, it's going to be very hard for us to achieve equity at work. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure there's many people who will listen to that and go, right, that sounds like a good plan. That's what I'm going to give it. I'm going to give that a go.
I do have a hot tip on this as well. Delegate whole tasks, not parts of tasks where you end up being the project manager for everything and have to be across everything. So when my husband realized he liked cooking and wanted to do all the cooking, I was like, great, we don't just give you the cooking, we also give you the grocery shopping and the meal planning. So I can take that completely out of my mental load, and he takes care of it end to end. And then he doesn't have to think about all the other stuff that I do end to end. And like, I think that was game changing for us.
Yeah, because then, it's not like you're stuck in this kind of weird manager-employee dynamic where the woman is kind of managing the partner. That you're both project leads in different areas.
Exactly. And then you really are a partnership, I think.
So what advice would you give to women who are aiming for leadership roles, especially in like digital focus fields? What are some of the opportunities and gotchas that you think they might need to keep an eye out for?
I think I spent a lot of my younger years, if I was saying this to my 15-year-old self or my 22-year-old self, I'd be saying, don't assume that everyone above you knows what they're doing. Everyone is learning and winging it to some level. And if you weren't, you'd be bored probably anyway. So the assumption that you have that the leaders above you have all the answers and have thought about everything you've thought about and don't need your input, that's not true at all. They absolutely need to know what you think about the thing that you're doing because you're an expert in that, and they can't factor it into decision making and vision setting and strategy and budgeting. They don't understand that. So I think having the voice and not stepping in when you really have an opinion to share. I know that's not easy, and I'm still telling myself this every day. So I'm not going to pretend to be the expert on that. I think also continuing to be curious about things outside of your day-to-day job is really valuable. I think from personal fulfillment, as well as it helps you operate differently at work or solve problems in a different way. I kind of think of it like cross-training for your mind. Like, don't always just be focused on the skill set that you've developed at work and always just iterate and optimize that skill set, because if you're not working on other aspects of yourself, I think you could probably end up with some blind spots. And I mean, I don't think I've ever done this mindfully. I think I've realized this in hindsight. I was always had a lot of other really big interests that I think I've felt were as much a part of my personality as my career, like really loving music or hiking, or recently over COVID got obsessed with astrophysics and thinking, why didn't I do more science when I was a kid? Because this is so interesting. And even just the perspective you get from having another interest, looking up in the sky and reminding myself that the universe is infinite and we're still looking for cosmic dawn. And actually that project I was really worried about tomorrow is maybe not, be all and end all of everything. So I think, continuing to be curious and developing your interests outside of work, I think is something that really gives you a bit of an edge in terms of how you show up at work, and also sometimes allows you to connect with your stakeholders on a different level so that you're not that one-dimensional project person. I know that's not easy. I know a lot of women are juggling everything else and they really want to get in and do their 9 to 5. But that I just can't underestimate the value I've gotten out of connecting with colleagues on topics that aren't work-related, and how much that engenders a positive bias towards wanting to work with me on the actual project later on. It has absolutely been really, really valuable for me, especially in the digital environment, which is often, like technology environment, very male-dominated. And all of a sudden, you can drop a little anecdote about the James Webb Telescope, and all of a sudden they take you seriously.
You're really highlighting here the personal aspect of people and how you can connect with them, which is what you do in your personal life anyway, how much that can bring to kind of amplifying what you can do as a leader.
I often would say to my team, like, it's that bit of small talk at the start that sets the tone for how you resolve really chunky problems later on. And if you can't connect with someone personally, there's no way that you have the generosity and good intent to really negotiate on a tough issue. So building trust comes from knowing each other, I think.
And so how would you, in your own words, how would you describe success now at this point in your career? And how has it changed throughout your career?
I always had an idea that if I got to this point in my career, if this is where I ended up, that I'd sort of be done. And I think I realized when I did end up in this role, it's not what it looks like on paper that gives you the fulfillment. It's how you're feeling physically and mentally. And also hitting 40 certainly helped me get the perspective of realization that, you can work really hard, but you've maybe sacrificed a relationship with your kid, or you've not nurtured your personal interests, or you've been climbing the wrong ladder, or all of those sorts of things. Or in my case, probably realizing that there's a lot I could have been doing to develop my health and well-being. And that, I think, during COVID, starting to exercise more and drink less, all of those things, investing in my physical health had such a huge impact on my mental health, and then probably my fulfillment in my career. So I always thought the success in my career would make me fulfilled, but it's actually the other way around. My personal fulfillment in how I spend my time and how I take care of myself and my family has made my career more fulfilling because I'm showing up, enjoying it. Even when it's not going well, it doesn't ruin my day. It's actually sort of fine, I'll just try again tomorrow because I feel good over here. This is really important. So yeah, definitely investing in your physical and mental health first. And that might be, those relationships around you and prioritizing them, because without them, like, you drop those balls and the career doesn't matter.
That is a great place to finish this interview, Mel, because you've offered so many practical insights, and you've also flipped so many of those kind of elements of what traditional success looks like. And actually, there's a completely different way of looking at it. And it actually opens up so many doors, whether they be one way, two way, or rotating. So thank you so much, Mel. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for having me. It was really great to chat.
Thanks for listening today. I'm Ellen Sullivan, co-founder of Even. Find out more about Even at even-careers.com and tune in next week to hear from another amazing woman in business.